Hello and welcome back, YouTubers. I am Protomario, and today we are reviewing the Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast is a video game console. It is the 6th generation, and it was released late in 1998. It is the successor to the Sega Saturn, a more kind of 1990s game system. The Sega Saturn was. The Sega Saturn allowed for gameplay of Sega Saturn games, which were on compact discs, as well as the Sega Genesis games on the top of it, which was a nice dual feature. While the Dreamcast only allowed for play of Dreamcast games, it did not allow for backwards compatibility, which was kind of crappy if you happen to own a Sega CD or Sega Saturn beforehand. Kind of a slap in the face. This was in direct competition with the preceding game systems Sony PlayStation 2, Microsoft Xbox, and Nintendo GameCube. Because the Dreamcast was released first, it had a jump ahead of its competition, which was that of the Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo's respective game systems. However, this did not help it or aid it in its success. One of the declining problems with Sega is that they released consoles like they were candy. The Sega 32X add-on, the Sega CD, then the Sega Saturn, and finally the Sega Dreamcast. It was like they were popping them out like, you know, they had no regard to if you bought a console a year before. They even had a 32X standalone system lined up named the Sega Neptune, but they opted out for an add-on rather than a standalone game system, which surprises me to date, and I would have much rather had a Neptune than a 32X, to say the least. However, let's continue on. The Dreamcast is an interesting system as it works off of things such as 64 graphical support. However, it goes a bit higher to 120 with dual 64 graphics integrated. But truly it can only go up to 100 megahertz in the graphics. Once again, this is a play of the numbers game, and it does pretty well for itself. As for the CD media type, it can use CD discs that can hold up to 1.2 gigabytes that are called GD-ROMs, and it was discontinued in 2001 March because, well, I think we all know why. It was getting the crap beat out of it. The best-selling game on it is the game I have in it, which is Sonic Adventure, and this game was pretty much released with the game as a release title. Sonic Adventure, I remember demoing it at a Walmart and watching Sonic run as the whale destroyed the dock behind it, and it was pretty cool to watch. They really did some great things with the Sega the Sega Dreamcast. Despite its despite its short lifespan, the Dreamcast has a serious cult status, and another independent company is actually manufacturing new Sega Dreamcast as we speak. It's 100% legal to purchase one. However, the price is pretty steep for nowadays standards, as it is a discontinued product. It is $100 to buy brand new, fresh, and you can acquire these used for about $20 to $25. As they are not very old, probably less than I want to say 10 to 12 years old in age, somewhere between 11 to 10 and a half. They probably won't be broken if you buy them used, and more than likely they probably won't be used that much after 2006, 7, 8, or 9, depending on who you purchase it from. Again, it is always good to make sure you buy it from a reputable dealer, because you don't want the inner workings here to be jacked up. But they are very easily found. They are not in precious commodity, and if you haven't ever played one, it's a good idea to pick one up and give her a whirl. This did have some great games for it that are ported over for the Xbox now. So if you're looking to collect Dreamcast games, it might be best to hold off on spending a lot of money on them and waiting for them to come out on the newer generation systems. So, let's dive right into it. Right off the bat, you can see that the Sega Dreamcast is much like the GameCube, allowing you 4 controllers at one time. However, it did not capitalize on this feature, as it did not have many games that utilized it, or even 1 or 2 that were very strong in utilizing this, such as GoldenEye, Super Smash Bros., or Halo. It didn't have this, and its competitors did, so it was kind of cool that it had 4 controllers at one time. However, the fact remains that you didn't have a good game to play with them, so why would you want 4 controllers at once? The best game that it had to offer was maybe Madden or a hockey game that used the 4 controllers at once, and that wasn't even that good. Tomato, many people argue certain games are better. The bottom line is it didn't utilize this function as well as it should have. On the front, you can see the Sega logo, which is not blaring out much like other Sega systems, and it's not embedded in, rather opting out to paint it on, which is something I dislike because painted on logos tend to disappear, and I would have much rather had an etched in logo. On the front side, you can also see that this is compatible with Windows CE, which is probably a bonehead move on their part to throw it on the front because it was so new and flashy at the time. I guess they didn't consider computers to be leaping forward as quickly as they thought they would have, and if this system had taken off, it probably would have been looked back and laughed at. Windows CE, that's so funny. We're at Windows 7 right now. It's 2010. Well, 2011. 2010 is when Windows 7 really started getting marketing heavy, and you're marketing Windows CE with your game system. Hilarious. Excuse me. Again, on the front controllers, you can see that they don't have markings for 1, 2, 3, or 4, but rather A, B, C, and D. I don't really know why. The input is similar to a FireWire, but not. It is kind of like a USB FireWire hybrid. Don't really know what they were going with the design, but they are aesthetically unique, that's for sure. This is actually compatible with Windows CE and had different things that you could use, like internet applications and applets, and because of this compatibility, it has had some third-party standalone issues, some firmware developed for it, custom firmware, homebrews, and things of that nature, allowing you to actually use this as a standalone computer rather than a game system. This also came with the capacity to plug up a keyboard with it and had games like Typing of the Dead that helped you work on your typing. Pretty effective marketing, however, it just did not go over well enough to save it. So let's lift her up and have a look-see here. On the top here, you can see the Dreamcast logo, as well as Dreamcast printed in words, and the power center, and the open. Pretty simple top design. Nothing aesthetically really great to it. Some weird pointed plastic pieces out in the open, and when you open it up, it opens. When you push the open button, surprise, it opens. Amazing, right? This feature is very nice because when you have a sliding out tray, that means more mechanical parts, which means a greater chance that it'll break. Because it opens like this, it will probably last significantly longer than its counterparts that actually have a moving tray. PS2, Xbox. I didn't say that. Anyways, on the side we have a heat sink where ventilation can come out, as well as the ability to expand out, and this is actually where the integrated modem is, where it says line right here. You can plug up your phone line into this. While nowadays we might use Ethernet, but back in the day you could use a 56K modem or 26K, and you could play online with people with Phantasy Star, a very most memorable game released on the Dreamcast. Over here you can see another heatsink that allows for ventilation, as well as AV out and serial. The serial port and AV out ports allowed you to either use a composite connection or a computer DVI connection, which is very nice, and I'm pretty sure I have that correct. It is the blue connection for your computer, and it allows for much better graphical interface than what was being offered at the time for those boob tubes. You could connect this to a PC and it would look much better. As well as AC in for the power. The power brick was inside of it, so there was no giant brick on your power strip. On the other side, absolutely nothing. And on the bottom here, you can see the serial numbers, the cautions, etc., and more ventilation and more clips and things like that for doing whatever you want with. Little feet to keep from sliding around, and that's about it. The Sega Dreamcast was a short-lived game system from Sega. It was their last gamble, and I think it is an underrated system. Even though the games were not as great for it, it definitely had some things going for it. Unfortunately, because of its direct competition of 3 other gaming systems, it just didn't have enough steam to keep it going, which is a shame. So, looking towards the controller now, yeah. This is the controller. It kind of looks like the Nintendo 64 controller, but a bit weirder. It also looks like the Xbox controller, but again, very weird. It had multicolored buttons, like they treated you like you were a kindergartner. They're not pushed in, but the D-pad is pushed in a little bit, and the thumbstick has some edging on it, so your thumb doesn't slip around. L and R, and a triangle for start. No select button. And on the inside of it, where the hole is there, you can plug in your VMU, which is a memory card with a LCD lit screen, which allowed you to take your game on the go for certain games like Sonic Adventure with the Chibis or Chobos or whatever they're called. Overall, the Sega Dreamcast was, again, a very underrated system. It's unfortunate that it failed so hardly, but if you haven't ever played it, there are plenty available on the market today. If you're interested in playing the Dreamcast, you can probably pick one up for $20. As I stated before, I purchased mine for $25 used. I did not get a box, however, which is a shame. Overall, I really like the Sega Dreamcast, and I like the games for it. However, I wouldn't pay an excessive amount for it. So guys, I am Protomario, and I'm signing out, and thanks for watching. And hey, if you like this review, please thumbs up and subscribe. It really, really helps me out. And if you like my video here, you might like some of my other videos. Go ahead and check them out. I have plenty of videos available for gaming. I'm Protomario, and I'm signing out. Happy gaming, guys.